Okay, now we're recording. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Design Recharge. This is episode 203, I believe, and my glasses are fogging up. And I have one of my favorite people, Jason Craig, and I may say that a lot, but like I really mean it when I say it. But Jason, there is something about Jason that I just connect with, and I really admire him, and he is one of my favorite people on the planet. So I always learn lots. I think he's really humble, so I wore my Tinland Studios Stay Humble shirt today for that reason. And but he's such a good mentor, as well as he's funny, and so he doesn't take himself too seriously, which I think is another one of his wonderful character traits. All right, so Jason, thank you for coming and being here.
Thanks. We might want to just stop now because I don't think I can do anything to screw it up with after that.
Oh, whatever. You're going to do great. It's going to be terrific. So some people may not know you, so give us a little bit of your background. And you've recently, about a year ago, started your own kind of freelance. You went full-time kind of doing it on your own, right?
Yeah, so just real fast, like history. I grew up in the Midwest, moved to the South, had some cool jobs along the way, had some crappy jobs along the way. And a few years ago, I kind of got more interested in design and decided that I needed to put myself out there a little bit more. Mainly whenever my bosses became younger than me, I decided I needed to maybe get my name out there a little bit. And so I worked at an agency for about 6.5 years, and right at a year ago, I've been gone from the agency, and so I've had kind of an unusual past year professionally. So what I did is I'm not necessarily a freelancer because I mean, nothing against freelancers. I love freelancers. I hire freelancers all the time, but what I did is I kind of took a job that pays a little bit less, but I work less hours. So I work for an art and music festival called Westaboo, and I don't necessarily need to be there 40 hours a week. And so that frees me up to do a lot of other things. And I mean, I could go fishing, I don't have to do other things. I could go, I could work in the yard. I could do a lot of things. But what I've chosen to do is I built this office, so I do design work here, and then I started renting a space with some other artists that we screen print. And so I've got basically 3 different desks throughout the week that I go to, and it's Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 5:30. I'm not doing this stuff till midnight, so I'm doing it during a work day, and so that's what I've been doing for the past year, and it's been pretty cool so far.
So there was this opportunity for you they actually offered you full-time, and you said, hey, I think I can do what you need in half the time. Kind of tell them about that, because I feel like for a lot of people to kind of go out on their own, it gives them that freedom, but having that one client that's going to take up a lot of your pay is
right.
helpful.
Well, that was my original plan was if I had to work on my own, that I would. The original plan was I would find a big retainer client that would make up half of my salary, and that retainer client would be, I would do everything, not just the cool stuff, but I would do the email blasts, and I would do business cards and the social media and all the stuff that most of us really do. And then the other half would be up to me to find cool stuff, and so right as I was leaving the agency, Westaboo, I got a text and they're like, we just sent you an offer. And I looked at it and I just yes, I want to do this. It filled so many needs for me, not just the work wise, but, I love being in downtown Augusta, and our office was right in the middle of downtown. And so, I was afraid that I was going to have to, I didn't know where I was going to work, and so this kept me downtown. They created a position for me, and so I'm right across the street from where I was, which I really enjoy that. but the thing is that going from 150 clients to one client, it's kind of like in Spaceballs whenever they go from ludicrous speed to stop,
Right.
and he just slams into the wall, and I knew that there's no way that I could just, that I could do that 40 hours a week and then do what I want to do outside of there to make up for all the stimulus that like I got from having all those clients, So, when you work at an agency, you have a lot of different clients, and at any time you're working on a few of them, but they all take up some kind of space in your head,
Right.
And so you're always thinking about stuff for somebody. And so you're always just kind of, the mill's always running. Well, then whenever you get down to one client, it's like, you got a budget and all this, and you can only think of so many things. Plus, we're a nonprofit, and so it's not like the sky is the limit. Like I've got an amount of money that I can spend, and once it's spent, then we kind of have to wait for the next relevant project.
Right.
So it's different, but it's a lot of fun. I have a great team that I work with at Westabu.
So one of the things, so you came from this, like part of your history is that you just wanted a job in design, doing something. You got a job and you would make like 150 business cards a day, pretty much, like, right? So you went from that. So being able to juggle a lot of things was something you were good at, but you also weren't willing. You thought maybe you would be bored with just one client, possibly, or not stimulated enough.
Right. Well, it went back to before, I had an opportunity to go work for a couple other companies before I went to Ware Stewart, and just weighing it out, being an in-house designer for anybody, I think that I would get bored, and so, like a guy I talked to where I got this job, he's like, well, I'm an in-house designer for Target. And I was like, yeah, but you make ads for bleach and mops and furniture. And I was like, I'm going to be making posters for a music festival, so it's a lot different, it's fun, but it's like, I want to do that 365 days a year, and Westabu, while it's a lot, it's a 5-day festival, and then we have art shows and all that stuff, but a lot of that just goes to support those things. And so, I want to make posters every week, and I want to make logos and design publications and do a lot more than just that.
So then you create the studio. Did you do an LLC or did you do?
So right now I'm gonna have to figure. My taxes are all screwed up. So this will be the first year that I'm gonna be figuring all that out. Because last year I just kind of, I thought everything would be okay, and I just kind of screwed it up really bad. So when I get all that figured out, I'll come out with a completely different talk for everybody to tell them how to.
That'd be good, because that's usually not something we're great at. But
no.
So you have to figure out what's right for you, and you have to figure out if you're doing monthly taxes or quarterly taxes or whatever. Right. But one of the other things that me and you talked about the other day was, hey, Matt Dawson, did you see your koozie? It was just on the screen. I usually use it, but I can't. It's over there on I got the black one. Anyway, the one thing I thought was really interesting is that you were like, hey, I'm going to do a bunch of different things. And then you were like, hey, how did you like that? How did you like spreading yourself out?
Well, whenever I first started doing it, whenever I first, was kind of let loose, it was really cool because now a lot of things changed, So, one is that I could now work for any local client that I wanted. Mm-hmm. There was no worry about any kind of conflict or stepping on toes or anything like that. But the other thing, the unexpected side of it, was because I didn't work for an agency. Now all of a sudden, all these agencies talk to me, and I get invited to their Christmas parties, and I got to go to all these lunches and stuff. And so that opened up a lot of opportunities for different kinds of work. And that's really cool because a lot of times they seek me out for the work that they know me for doing, and not just to have a warm body doing some work. So if somebody calls me, it's because they want a specific thing, and that's what we all want. We all want to be doing the thing that we like to do. And so it's cool to have an agency call and be like, hey, we're rebranding this bar, or somebody's opened up a restaurant, and we love what you did for these people, and can you do this for them? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely, and so that's cool because it just opens up a lot of possibilities that are here in town. And so I like to drive around and see stuff that I did. As humble as I might be, I don't like to have to do stuff for people a million miles away that I never see. And so it's working out really well. But what happened is at the first section, like the first probably quarter of this experience for me, I had a lot of people. I built this little process based on like all the things that I thought were wrong with an agency model and things that we could do better. And I started doing that, and I found out really fast I didn't like it very much to do this process. And so I backed off of it really hard. And then we had the festival for Westabu, and so that kind of dominated a lot of my time. And then coming out of there, like I had scheduled all my clients that I had to where I didn't have a lot of extra work with the festival. Well, then whenever I came off the backside of the festival, then it was like I have no work to do. And for the first time in years, I had literally nothing on my plate, and it kind of felt good. And so I just didn't do anything for a couple weeks, maybe a month. And it gave me a lot of time to kind of think and get a good hard reset, because now I understood what my job at Westabu was about, having done the festival. And I really did have an opportunity to push forward with really a clean slate and like an actual like understanding of what it was. And so I kind of decided that what I would do is I just wanted to do fun work. I just wanted to do cool work, right? just like all of us. I just wanted to do the cool stuff. Well, there's this thing that I call the 5K flaw. And what it is it's when your buddy comes in and he's doing a 5K and he says, I need you to make me a logo and t-shirts for my 5K. And you tell him that you can't do it because he doesn't have enough money, his deadline is too short or whatever, right? And so what happens is he has some other guy do it, and then next Saturday the 5K runs past your door and it looks like crap. So that's what I call the 5K flaw. So what I did is I kind of started this little network of other designers that are here, not all over. Sorry, everybody in the world. People in Augusta that I could see. And I've got like 5 of them. And what I do is whenever that stuff happens, whenever it's something that maybe I don't want to do or can't do, I send a message out to all of them and I say, I will art direct this. I'll look at what you've got. I'll get an understanding from the client because I've got an understanding because, I'm not going to tell somebody no without understanding the job. And so I'll work with them and get this stuff done. So at the end, the guy will say, yeah, Jason didn't do my 5K thing. However, he didn't just push me right back out the door. He found somebody to do it for me. He guided him through it and everything worked out great. And so that's what I've been doing now. So, and I've been doing it a lot because, I've had quite a few things that I keep passing on to other people so that I can do the stuff that I want to do. And so now I'm getting to do more posters and I'm getting to do more, all kinds of stuff. And even like identities, I'm passing those off. I'm not really too fond of doing identities these days. So, it's been working.
So then you've been able to not only give other people work, which maybe it's really too low budget, or maybe it's somebody who really does need exposure, or they just need somebody else to believe in them and their abilities. Because a lot of times with something like that, there's a little bit more creative freedom because there is no budget and it's a really tight time frame. So a lot of times, or at least that's what because I know I've been asked to do some of those things as well.
Well, that's part of it. Really, it's just I just want to be able to do. I want to put the kind of work out there that I want to do more of, and so it's really a quality thing. Even if it's not necessarily about money, but that's the thing though. It's like there was 5 years ago or 10 years ago, somebody would have called me and said, can you do this logo for $500? I'd have felt like an angel had just walk through my door. And so it does help out, I can't read those comments while I talk.
I know. So Zach just said, I want to put out the kind of work Jason wants to do more of. And instead of like, what would Jesus do? It's what would Jason Craig do? WWJCD.
There you go. Well, but that's the thing is that I still want to be able to be accessible. And so, I'm not just turning people away. I'm not saying, sorry, I don't do that. Sorry, I don't do a commercial real estate identity or whatever it is, I still help them out,
But you're
but
also, go ahead.
well, it's like so like just in the last week I had a thing that was a really tight deadline, and there was no way I could get that done and this other stuff. I wanted to design this poster for this AIGA thing, and there's no way one of them would have to suffer, and so I passed it on to somebody else, and he got that side of it done. I got my thing done, and everybody was happy, and it worked out really well, Plus the thing, as I'm building this network of people, it's just when I am in a bind or I just need somebody else to look at something, I've got people right there that can tell me if something sucks or not, and that's always nice to have.
But it's also, that's a way to scale a business in the future, is building that network of people who, and also those people now realize, the business people realize that they can come to you and you can get things done, or you can find somebody. But then the other people who are kind of struggling and they feel like that $500 gig that really would be a miracle to them is now something that if they have a good relationship with you, then they're going to be able to and do the work. I mean, you have to be able to deliver, but that you have these opportunities and you're able to see kind of people's strengths.
Right. And that's the cool thing, is that like everybody is a little bit different. A couple of them are designers. One of them's an art director. And now I've found that I need to find a proofreader that I can send stuff and pay them by the word to proofread stuff. So, which I've never had to really proofread anything, and I need that bad. So,
well, I can help you out with that, because I know some people, but
maybe.
They won't be in Augusta.
I got to find somebody in Augusta. I'm a homer, so I got to find somebody around
Well,
here.
I do have a cousin that lives there, so maybe she knows somebody. She's like in nursing, so she's really smart. So maybe she knows some people. All right, so let me go back to question number 2, which is a new question I've added in. I know I never asked you this. What would you tell your younger self to do differently if you could go back in time? And if you were going to tell yourself to do something differently, what age would you go back to?
I'd tell myself to become a mechanic. No, I don't know. I think that I got lucky that I was so stubborn, because I think that I had a lot of roadblocks, but the thing was I always looked at what I do just as a job. I just punched the clock for a lot of years, for all the years that I was just, that I was learning things and getting better at it. I didn't look at it as I'm going to be the next designer for Nike. I just looked at it as, I could have been a mailman or a fireman or a designer, and so I didn't know about these conferences, and I didn't know about, I don't even know what this is called, a podcast or blogcast or videocast.
I'm calling it a podcast from now on.
Well, it's not a podcast.
I know.
And so, I didn't know about all this stuff. And I think that that's a good thing that I didn't know about it, because it made me stick with it. I think that now you can get unrealistic expectations if you're young or just out of school, and it is perceived that, people are doing so well at this and you don't feel like you are, when in reality, we all make business cards, we all make email blasts, we all make PowerPoint presentations, people have entire jobs that never make anything that's even consumer facing, and it's a whole industry, and so there's 700 of us that get together and pat each other on the back, but there's an entire industry of people that don't even know about any of this. They just go to work and do their job. Go to a sign shop and you'll find 3 of them, and they're really fast, and so.
But I feel like I was like that in the beginning. Like, I knew about AIGA and I went to some Howard conferences, but it wasn't like a Creative South kind of crop kind of feel. It was more of, I would go in, I would do my job, and granted, I worked more than 40 hours a week, but when it came the weekend, man, I was snowboarding, and that's what I was doing. And so it was kind of like, if I had a day off, I would go, to Keystone on Thursday or something, just to, and I wasn't as passionate about design then. So I think it's something you kind of mature into and grow into. Granted, I have some students who are super passionate right now and I'm like, man, what could I have done with that? So what would you have told yourself, or would you have
Well, I think that one of the mistakes that I did make is that I kind of looked at my illustration and art career separate from design, and the two never really intermingled until a lot later on. And I think that I would have told myself that it was okay for that stuff to come through in design. I think that I probably could have done a lot of cool projects over the years had I felt like it was okay for me to draw a picture and put it in an ad, as opposed to making I was concerned with like making everything kind of toneless and make it look like anybody could have done it, because that was the correct. And so I think that maybe, but that might be bad advice. I don't know. I think that like I said, I think I got lucky that I was so hard-headed and kind of looked at it as a job.
It can be a benefit for sure. So what was something that you learned early on that really impacted the way you are your own boss? Like it could be something that was a boss did to you, or a coworker, or something on your own.
Let's see. I think that I had a few bosses that were kind of absentee bosses that over the years that just kind of, I was like a set it and forget it type person, and so they would, I had bosses that I only see once every couple of weeks. And so I kind of just learned to figure stuff out and to not, bring up every single problem, for somebody else to solve. And so a lot of stuff that I would figure it out when it came down to it, I would solve problems or make decisions quick. And I think that helped a lot, that I think, having bosses that kind of left me to it.
Well, you may have made mistakes, but you were okay owning up to them, and you learned from them, and you didn't make them again,
Yeah, right. Yeah, you got to make mistakes. That's how you grow.
But that's what decision making is, right? Like you're going to make a mistake.
Yeah, I would rather. So I will make thousands of decisions on the spot, whether I have the authority to or not. I will just make a decision. And the thing is that by the time most of those mistakes, if you're making decisions that fast, if the mistakes are so far behind you that you can fix them. If you're only making 2 decisions a year, there's a lot of pressure. If you're making 1,000 decisions in a week, if you get half of them right, you're doing pretty good.
So did you ever have a mentor? Like when,
So, I've never had, a single person that's my mentor, and that's one of those things that I always kind of struggled with, because I've seen other people that have like, they got like their Yoda. And so I always felt like I was kind of lacking something in that, and I always wanted a mentor, but I never did find one. And so, what I've come to realize is that I benefit a lot from peer mentorship. And so, there's a lot of, everybody has something to offer, and whether they're older than you or younger than you, and so I try to learn things from people as every chance that I can. And, interns that have worked with me, I learn from them, bosses, Alex that I worked with, the first couple of weeks that I worked with him, it was incredible because he was such a positive force, and I'd just come from a newspaper that was kind of on its way down, and everybody just had the worst attitudes. And so it was just such a shock. And it was like, wow, this guy is so positive, and I want to be like that, and so I like to try to identify things in people that I can learn from and kind of make myself better. So I'm always looking, I spent a year talking to Scotty, on the phone and over the video thing. And I don't, over the FaceTime,
Skype,
there you go, Skype or whatever it was,
something,
whatever it was, and learned so much from him and watching him grow and just kind of working together. And then seeing him, speak and all that, it was really awesome, just to have that. And so, yeah, I think that peer mentorship is, if that's the right term for it, I think it is, that I benefit a lot from that.
Well, and I feel like a lot of times people who had a mentor, they want to mentor. But maybe this, because I really do think that you do a lot of things within our industry, within also your local community that are mentor. Like, how do those things give back to you? And why would you tell somebody to do something like that, to give up some of their time?
It's the best thing that you can do. I mean, there's no, you got to do it without really expecting anything back, because you're going to get so much back from it. And I don't want to sound corny, but just helping people and teaching them, the feeling whenever you see somebody that has like, that can do it now, where it's one thing if you've got to like hold somebody's hand and try to get them to do something over and over, but whenever you actually teach somebody something and then they can do it, not only does it feel great to see that, but it frees you up, because now you don't have to do that anymore, and so the more people that I can teach to do what I know, then I can learn more things, so if you're a ditch digger and you're digging ditches all day, until you teach somebody else how to dig that ditch for you, you're going to be digging ditches forever, and so it's only your benefit to teach other people the things that I didn't always have that mentality. Used to, I hoarded everything, and if I thought that you wanted my job or to know what I know, I would cut your head right off. When
did this change?
It changed probably, it kind of started to change just on its own organically, probably about, 10 years ago maybe. And it was just a kind of a slow change. And then all these millennial folks hit the workforce, and their mindset is just, they're on the other side of a line than non-millennials. Their way of thinking is so different. And so the first millennial that I really had to work with, was forced to work with, was Russ Pate. And and if you know that guy, yeah, who doesn't love Russ? Right. And so, his mindset was just so opposite, because he's like a sponge, he's like, I want to know this, I want to do this, I want to do this. He's like a chihuahua, he constantly wanted to do this and that. And I'm like, oh my God, no, don't, just settle down. I was trying to like settle him down, but then I realized that, there's something to that, there is something to community, and there is something to, all the things that you can do. I don't think that I'm going to be sitting in a shared workspace with a bunch of folks, trading fonts and stuff. But, I do a creative roundtable on First Fridays that anybody can come to. We just sit around and drink coffee and talk about stuff. And there's a lot of people that benefit from that. And so I'm trying to adapt some of those things that relate to people in general, and it's based on a lot of the millennial mindset of kind of, it's almost like hippie-ish to me, because it's such a community thing and everybody loves everybody and we can all go to these conferences. And, 15 years ago, if I knew there was a conference full of designers, I'd have went and chained the door shut so that, that's less people that can take my job ever, So, but now, I love talking to people. I love, trading skills. I love, showing people the big secrets behind what we do, that's the thing too, is we didn't all have the same equipment. You couldn't go to Best Buy and just buy a computer. You had to work for somebody that had a computer. And now we're no different. Then, the plumbers all go to Home Depot and buy the same pipe. We all go to the same font foundry. We all go to the same, software. And so it really, it's what it's done is it's turned it back into a people thing. You're not just going to work and doing the job correct. What I do is different than you more than ever, because we're using the exact same stuff. Right. And so now my experience is more important, my knowledge is more important, and just the path from my brain to my hand is much more important now, because it's an equal playing field.
Right, for sure. The good wisdom. So I want to talk a little bit more. So one of the things you do, so community, the first roundtable, Dan says he's going to be coming down if you're not going to hate on people from Columbia. So he said he wants to do that.
Oh, no, I love Columbia.
He wants to be on that. So, but like you also do stuff with high school people. So one thing I totally agree with you. I learn from my students all the time. They're all way younger than me, 20 years younger than me. Some 22 years younger than me. But there's something about learning from no matter how old. So if I go to something at church and there are these ladies that are 80, and then it's me, I feel like, man, they've got a lot of wisdom because of perspective, right? It's what your experience is. And I do think that there's a lot you can learn, but you even reach out to high schoolers, and I feel like there must be some reason why, instead of just reaching out to people who are in college or who are at that next level, why go back to a high school or to a college locally and try to give back?
You know, it just seems like it just seems like the right thing to do. I mean, that's
do you
the
wish
thing.
Somebody had done that for you?
Oh, I had none of that. I grew up in the middle of a farm, you know, in farmland in central Illinois, and there was no other designer, artist, nothing. You know, an artist was like somebody had a cousin. You know, I was like, oh, I think my aunt's husband has a cousin in California that's an artist, and that was as close as you got.
Right.
You know, and so that was not like doing what I do was not something that growing up I could be like, oh, this one. I didn't even know what a graphic designer was.
I didn't either.
You know, I didn't know what it was. I think that I've been trying to trace it back, and I think whenever I moved here, they had an ad for a graphic designer in the Help Wanteds, and that's whenever I said, oh yeah, I'm a graphic designer. You know, but up until then, I just knew that I wasn't going to make a lot of money painting. You know, and so, but yeah, I grew up with not a lot of support, and you know, my family supported me, and you know, I'd draw a picture and they'd put it on the refrigerator like anybody else, you know, and I got the art award in high school and all that stuff, but there was no real vehicle for me to thrive. You know, I mean, no matter what, I would have been not doing this, you know, I'd been doing this as a hobby, you know, and not understanding the scope of what I could possibly be doing. So it was vital for me to move away. You know, it was one of the most important things I've ever done, and I think that just not, you know, just letting them know that this is okay. That you can make a living, you can send your kids to college, you can put food on the table, you can do a lot of things by being a designer. Mm-hmm. You know, and so and you know, it's just. It's awesome.
But it's also that you've merged that painting and the drawing and the illustration. I feel like and you got your voice. I think that's something that you do really well. And is you get your itch, I guess. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, the way that I say that is that whenever people ask me about the art versus design thing, I explain that I have this vessel, and every day it's creative vessel that I have to fill up. And I can do that in so many ways. I can do that by painting pictures, drawing pictures. I can do it by this right here. I can do it by just running my mouth. You know, I can fill up that need to fill that vessel. And that's why, like, most of the time, like, if I'm at work during the day and, you know, really hitting it and making some cool stuff, I don't necessarily need to come home and then paint, because I don't have something that's pouring out of me. You know, I don't have a thing to say. I've just got this vessel I need to fill every single day. And so I prefer to be able to fill it during a work day like everybody else. And I can do that now. That's why I don't go fishing instead of, you know, sitting here right now when I'm not at West Taboo. You know, I keep filling that vessel up every day, and it's really cool because I have no idea what's going to be next, you know. So I got a good plan, but in a week somebody could call me and say, you know, we want this. I mean, 2 weeks ago somebody called me and said, do you want to do a Flaming Lips poster? And I was like, hell yes I do, you know, and I had no idea that's coming, you know. And so these things just kind of, if you keep putting it out there and trying to make each day better than the one before it, good things will keep happening.
But you worked for a lot of years doing some things after work and building community and just doing your thing, but you also were good at putting it out there and getting it seen by people, right? I mean, it's not like you just were like, oh, I was at Weir Stewart and then I just decided to do this and now I'm getting all these great opportunities. I feel like it's because you hustle. I do. I hustle and I talk to people. I make connections. You know, networking is a huge thing, but you know, you just got to be yourself, you know, whenever you're doing that stuff. You know, you can't try to say, okay, I want to do this, and so I'm going to act this certain way so that person will like me and get me this job. You know, you just got to be yourself, and people will respond to you. I mean, there's no matter what your attitude or train of thought,
there's a group of people out there that like you, I guarantee it. And so you just got to kind of find them, you know, you just got to figure out, and they'll find you because they're looking for you too, you know. And so it's just interesting, you know. I mean, one guy that I work with is he went to school to be an art director, and he doesn't really get to do that. And so we started working together, and he was like, you know, I just want to tell you what I want, and I kind of sketch it and have you make it. And I was like, that's fantastic. I love that. I love good direction, you know, and blew his mind, you know. He's like, wow, I get to actually art direct. And I was like, I actually get to design something that I know what it's supposed to look like. That's fantastic. You know, I was like, to me, it's just two pieces that fit right together, you know. And so it's great to work with him, and it's great to hear how excited he is to work with me, because he's like, I get to do what it is that I like to do, you know. I was like, so do I. It works out, you know. And we just happen to get paid to do it, you know.
So some of that comes when you have, so Westaboo kind of provides some financial stability and some kind of just, I guess there's a peace of mind, right? With that. Is. But then there's the faith. You have faith in your work and maybe higher power that's bringing things to you, or knowing that all of your hustle pays off. At some point, right?
Right. It does. But I was talking to somebody else the other day, and he's thinking about becoming a freelancer full time, right? And he's stressing, and he's like, oh, what if this happens, and what if I don't get work, and what if whatever. And I said, the worst case scenario is you go get a job. That's the worst case scenario. You go get a job. So that's my worst case scenario. I just go get a job. You know, if this doesn't work out, or I just get tired of it, if I don't want to sit here with posters and pineapple plants and stuff all day, I just go get a job.
Right.
You know, gosh, you know, I just put the word out that somebody that needs a creative director, art director, designer, whatever, and get a job. You know, it's not like I have to bankrupt my house or you know. So, I mean, yes, there is a risk, but it's, you know, I am renting a space that I don't use for design. I use it for screen printing, you know, and so I do have technically kind of a storefront situation going on, but I like to be here, you know, and so I do have obligations, but I mean, I didn't open a shoe store and have $100,000 worth of inventory.
Right. You
know, I'm just a guy, and things don't work out, I go get a job, you know, gee whiz. And it'll probably be a design job.
Right. Well, I think that there's something, like, I always think that if I lose my job as a professor, I can go be a designer. And then I always think, oh, well, if I'm, you know, it's like, it's trusting your skills and who you are. I always feel like, oh, well, if it comes all down to it, I can just go wait tables or bartend like I did when I was in grad school. You know, I mean, like, I'm pretty good with people. Unless I'm blind, you know, that's probably not going to be a good solution either, but I can figure something out. And I feel like there's a fear for a lot of people. Well, and I do think you have to have you personally had Westaboo, but you also had a lot of stuff you were doing that people knew you for. So it wasn't like you were just like, hey, I'm emerging, here I am. I'm
no. It's not like that.
You have to build up to that.
You do, and yeah, like there are things. You know, I'm the president of AdFed, you know, and so I'm on boards, and they actually put me in charge of stuff on these boards, you know, and so, and you know what? When I go to those board meetings, I show up wearing this. You know, I'm this all the time, you know, and so. You know, yeah, I'm not just, I do a lot of things, you know, and I plant a lot of seeds. You know, I grew up around farms. I know how to grow stuff. And so you got to grow your career the exact same way. You know, you got to keep it diverse. You know, you can't just depend on one thing for all the time, you know, especially now. You know, I mean, there's super talented people that just hop job to job to job. You know, the thought of, if you want to be at a job for a long time, you either have to be the boss or crazy, you know, because it's just not happening like it used to. You know, super talented people they're just looking for the very next thing, you know, and that's kind of tough, you know, it makes the whole, you know, kind of atmosphere kind of difficult for everybody whenever,
you're also honing skills. So you're honing managerial skills. If you're the president, you're also honing skills with other people, like finding people and then finding places for them to be also. And that's something else that may not have been, it may not be design, but it still might fill that vessel, because it still takes creative energy. And also it's really like a win when you can help somebody get their dream to happen, I think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, leadership is not a job title. I mean, I read a lot, and one thing that reoccurs is there's always I don't know what they call it, but they say that in every company, in every huge corporation, there's like 2 or 3 people that everybody will say that's the guy that can get stuff done. And it's not the top 2 or 3 guys. It's not some executive vice president. It's like the guy down in maintenance is the guy that can get something done. And this guy, this mid-level management guy can get stuff done. And being those people, that's something that that's not something that somebody else tells you it's time for you to do. You don't get a business card that says, okay, you're a leader now. You just kind of are, and I gravitate towards those people as well, and I get a lot of that from my family. My dad is like that. Both my grandpas are like that. Like the men in my family are Midwest hardworking, dudes. And so, I get a lot of it from that,
So Doc Reed, do you know Doc?
I don't think that I do, and I'm sorry.
You have to meet him at Creative South. Okay. I'll make sure I introduce you to it. He's great. So he said he's late to the game. He really likes the clue stuff, and we haven't talked about it, so we will talk about it. But he said, what advice do you have to us artists, or to as artist designers? He's similar to you, does a lot of illustration and paintings, printmaking kind of stuff. What would you give to keep us from just jumping job to job? What would you say?
Wow.
What kept you at Weir Stewart,
Well, I mean, I've just always been, I come from the Midwest. My grandpas both worked everybody worked for one company, and then retired. They're all in unions. And so, my family back home doesn't understand why I have so many jobs, and it's like 6, since I've been 18 years old, I've had like 6 jobs. And, I've been at most of them for like 6 years, 3 years, and so, I don't know, it's kind of tough. Honestly, it's just a different atmosphere now. People are used to, junior designers aren't expected to necessarily be promoted within the same company. You're a junior designer here, and then you go become a regular designer somewhere else. I think that's kind of the way it works now. I think that the biggest thing, if you're going to be like that, you got to be willing to go anywhere to do it. Mm-hmm. You got to be willing to move away. You got to be willing to make a lot of sacrifices. I moved across the country, and then I've just worked in Augusta since then, but I know plenty of people that have popped into Augusta and popped right back out, and they're doing great, but that's just a reality that you got to deal with, that you're not going to be anchored anywhere. Or at least you shouldn't. Don't try to hop around in one town. That's not going to work.
Right. Well, so Doc says, well, can we break that cycle within the industry? And I'm not sure exactly what cycle you mean.
Of the hopping around. I know what he means. And I don't, it's, I'm guessing Doc's not a millennial.
Doc's not a what?
A millennial.
No, he has 3 kids.
He's not a millennial. But that's what I'm saying. It's a mindset. Yeah, it's the mindset.
He's not as old as me, though.
But it's just the reality of it now. People are not raised to think they're going to work at one job forever. It's something that's it's not just our industry. It's a cultural thing.
But I think, like, my sister probably hasn't worked at a job. Now, she's older than me. She hasn't ever stayed at a job more than 5 years, I think. Mm-hmm. But it's because of the industry she's in as well. She does a lot of tech stuff with business. And so it changes. And she also has this vessel, and she's like, I get bored. And so now she's doing her own thing, and she's doing consulting. I think it fills something else for her, so she doesn't have to keep going around. So I feel like if you are changing jobs to keep your boredom, then that may be something else. But I also feel like if you wanted to stay and you want to make a commitment, you can see what happens at these places and see if they turn people over, or if pretty quickly.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think you need to do your research, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I know plenty of other people. Brian Steely, has worked for Jackson Spalding for a million years, and so there are people that do not, that can be successful both. I also think that maybe it's because we just call ourselves creatives, and even within the people watching right now, you probably got a bunch of different professions. I mean, me and you don't do the same job,
right?
But we consider ourselves in the same net, But if you were to say you're a nurse or a fireman, nobody would be like, "Where are you a nurse?" You'd be like, "Oh, I'm a nurse,"
Right.
But if you're a designer, it's like, well, where are you a designer? Who is giving you permission to be a designer? And so that's part of it too. Is we have kind of a catch-all industry, and not a specific. If you're the mailman, and nobody's going to criticize you for being a mailman here and then being a mailman there,
right?
But if you're a designer now, and then you're a web designer, and then you're a copywriter, and then you're a creative director, you're climbing some kind of a ladder that you see fit, but it happens at different places, and it's like, oh, how come that guy can't keep a job? It's just kind of, I think we do it to ourselves, and it's just the way that we talk about it, and that's probably is because we have so many different like trades within an industry that we just call creative.
Right. All right, so we're almost out of time, and I want to make sure we cover a couple other things. I always like talking to you. Okay, so I think we kind of talked about this a little bit about there's a little fear that comes from getting new clients. So what has been a challenge of finding other clients? And did you start out with a theory or a plan? Did you take on different kind of jobs to get, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I started. Yeah. I had a theory. I came up with this really cool retainer model that I thought was fantastic, and it had a beginning and an end, and it addressed all these things that I see wrong with retainers. And man, I attracted people like crazy. Like everybody found out, and it was all this work I didn't want to do. I mean, it was like every business lawyer, wanted me to do their logo and their collateral suite, all this stuff, and it's like, I don't want to toil down here making people's business cards anymore. I don't want to make newsletters. I don't want to do that stuff. And you know what I really don't want to do? I don't want to go and have to find, make somebody, I don't want to make an invoice for a newsletter, because that's like inception of crappy design, And so when I started doing that, I got a lot of work, and then I took some time to kind of purge out those folks, politely. And so I figured I went back to doing things the way that I was doing them before, because I was finding cool stuff before. I was finding poster jobs, except the difference is that now I'm available from 8 to 5. I don't have to talk to people at 9 at night. I can talk to them during the day. And it's amazing how much another professional person can respond to you whenever you're working during daylight hours, as opposed to working after work, and so I have so many more opportunities now because I can go meet somebody, or have them meet me, during the day when everybody is working, and so there's a lot more opportunities. We're like reverse vampires. Like the daylight's good for us, get out in the daylight to find work.
Yeah, that's the one great thing about being a professor. Like part of my job is having clients, and I can do that during the day, which is great.
Yeah.
Anyway, not to say, I mean, I agree.
No. It's just a difference. It's a huge difference.
Yeah. So one other thing that I think is great is that you're authentic. But one of the thing is just at Westaboo, they have an art gallery. And so It's about you bringing some of your design knowledge and understanding audience, bringing that to the gallery. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, it's cool. So I, on my way into work every day, I walk through an art gallery that changes. They have different shows every 2 months. And so every 2 months, basically my office changes. And I get to walk through there, and it's really awesome. We bring in national and regional artists. I get to work with these people, and because, I've been on the art side of it, and now I'm on the design side of it, it's really, really cool because a lot of them are used to working with other artists, but I come at it from a design standpoint. And so my point is that the gallery is not about me. I work there, but I'm working with the artist and the gallery to bring the two together. And so I want to know about the person. I don't know what they're interested in. Just like any other client. If you went to work for a nut and bolt warehouse, you're going to learn a lot about nuts and bolts. I want to learn about their art. I want to learn about what motivates them. And then I can, using the language of colors and shapes, I can translate that to the people and bring them in, you know. And so it's really, really cool to have an artist, you know, whenever I make a logo for their show or make, you know, whatever it is that I'm making, and show them, and you can see if you hit it, you know. It's really cool, because whenever, you know, if you're doing an identity for, you know, a regular client, you know, a janitorial service or whatever awesome stuff we do most of the time, you know, and they look at it and they're like, you know, you don't know what they're thinking. They might love it, they might not. But with an artist who is doing something so personal, whenever you show them the logo for their show, you can tell immediately if it's right or not, you know. And it's so fun to get it right, because they're just, you know, they're so excited about it, you know. And now that they're so excited about their show, it's going to be better, you know. And there's going to be a lot of people come to it, and they're going to sell some art and all that. And then I get to live with it for 2 straight months. And
but the other aspect is the people on the street coming in. You have to know them also, because you've been asked, hey, did you paint these?
Every day. Every day we get asked that. Yeah, it's the number one question we get. So we're downtown. We're not, you know, it's not a appointment only, super sophisticated. You know, it's not like the gallery on Beverly Hills Cop. You know, and so people walk in off the street and they're not art critics. You know, they just are looking for something to do, and so they come in, and the first thing they ask is this your work? You know, and we have answers for it. You know, you get good at talking to people, and it's fun. And as the shows stay up, we learn more about the art, and as we talk to the artists, and I like to listen to the artists talk about the work, you know, and then I use that to talk about it as well. And then sometimes you know, it's really awesome whenever I just happen to know the artists, you know, and then I can really speak to what they've done, you know. And it's a lot of fun to do, you know, and that's, you know, what I get paid to do half the time.
Which is really a neat thing, but I don't think that you would be as good at it if you weren't a designer, because you know what questions to ask, but you also know how to talk. It's communicating. For us is visually, but we also have to use words a lot of times, and so now it's just words you're doing, but you've already done it visually.
Yeah, and I use I think I'm good at it because I use my people off the street words and not my big 5-syllable art words, right? You know, and so I can. So one other thing I want to cover before we go, because I know we're really close, is what about, because you're kind of alone, and you talked a little bit, you kind of mentioned that now you have this kind of crew of people that you can talk to, but how would you tell somebody to go about building that? So whenever I first started doing this, I worked from home for a couple weeks. And I went crazy. Like there's no possible, at that point, there's no possible way that I could do this. I did not think I could work alone, you know, because I'll have a joke or just want to throw something and I need somebody to throw it at, you know. And so I couldn't deal with it, you know, because at Ware Stewart, it was like the monkey house at the zoo, you know. There's just constantly stuff. And a lot of the times, like, I would be able to get work done in spite of it, not because of it. But then wherever you get all this peace and quiet, it's like, I need somebody bothering me. You know, I need to be able to work to prove whom I can do it, you know. Well, at Westaboo, there's 3 of us there. And the other 2 are so good at their jobs and focused that we don't spend a ton of time just chit-chatting, you know. And so for the longest time, I was like, these people don't talk to me. You know, I was like, what the hell, you know? And I was like, they don't come just tell you a story like I will, right? You know? And so that kind of got me used to working by myself, you know. It's kind of a transition. And so working by myself is a little bit is different. And I'm really good at recognizing bad habits. So if I find myself pushing pixels around or just toiling, I will stop, you know, and then I'll send it to somebody else, you know, and I'll just like tell them, you know. And so and I encourage everybody to do that. If you find yourself just mashing this shape around, if you're doing this,
but that's decision making.
It's not. No, it's not. No, that is not decision making.
No, exactly. That's the opposite of decision making.
It's
right?
the opposite.
So,
right.
But that's what you're good at, is you're good at making decisions. And you're saying, hey, I'm just wasting time. Right?
Yeah, if you can't figure it out on your screen, go outside and look at a tree or something else. Right. Because that screen is not going to do anything for you. I can assure you. But having that discipline to do that, you know, I could sit here all day just messing with one little thing and just never get anything done. So the other thing it does is that I've learned the value of my time. you know, and I don't mean to sound that like an arrogant way, but like literally my time has a value because that's what we're selling is our time, you know? And so, I don't sit here and watch YouTube videos. I don't turn on, I don't have a TV, you know, I don't sit here and do, you know, I work while I'm here, you know? And so it goes a long way whenever you actually are putting in 8 hours worth of work.
So like Dan just has been doing it for 3 weeks. So what would you tell Dan to do to build up other people that he can share his stuff with when he needs to look, you know what I mean? Like how would he go from nothing to building with somebody? Because sometimes if you were working at a job, you can't just go back and be like, hey, can you look at my stuff?
No, that's true. But I'll just call Dan out because Dan has my phone number and he could send it to me. So I talk to Dan every time I go to Columbia. I run into that guy. And so, yeah. And so there's one. So a lot of times, you know, you just got to start doing it. You know, you wouldn't believe how many people I have pestered, you know, I do things like I have a little folder full of images of me as a kid. Like I have one of me riding around in Kit from Knight Rider. I have one of me riding on an elephant and all this stuff. And I will include that stuff on an email, just a cold email. You know, I'll see something I like and I will email that company. Or if your website has a contact us thing, if like, you know, everybody's website says, hey, send us a line, I will do it. You know, and I'll include that picture. And then you'll get like a personal email that's like over top of like the auto response from some guy named Steve. And he'll be like, what is your deal? And then I've got him. You know, that's the thing. And then I've got him. Because all I need is just to do this, just to talk to him, and I've got him. You know, and so you just got to have an angle, you know, just not anything. Don't be bullshit. Just have something that makes you memorable. You know, I got a job one time because right before I sent in my resume, I stapled a picture of a bird to it. And somebody called me up and they're like, your resume really sucks, but why did you staple this bird to it? And then I had him. I got him on the phone. That's all you want, you know. The rest is the interview. Right. You know?
So Kent has a question. How would you encourage students to make decisions and finish the job? Because I do see this as a problem. It may be a confidence thing. So I feel like you got this out of your system when you were working at that place where you had to do 150 business cards because you didn't have time. So you had to make decisions and you actually had to be okay with it not being the best. Like perfection, you had to be okay with that. But you were also learning design at the same time. So what would you tell somebody to just make a decision and finish the job?
Just keep doing it. Just do it. I mean, that's the thing. It's like okay, so we all have this sketchbook, right? You got this really nice sketchbook that you never draw in, right? Yeah. You do. Right. I know you do. I know every single one of those people have this really nice sketchbook that they never actually draw in.
Right.
Pick that thing up and just start drawing in it. You know, it is not you know, and that's it, and that applies to everything. You know, if you're a basketball player, if you're Michael Jordan, you don't only take the shots that you know are going to go in. You take shot after shot after shot after shot after shot. And eventually your mechanics get better. Eventually your hand does what it's supposed to. Eventually your taste gets better and the thought that you have in your head transfers to your hand and you can actually make it, you know. But you have to do that 1,000,000 times, you know, and just keep doing it.
Oh, I have something else on that same sort of, so last summer there was Malcolm Gladwell did this podcast. I can't even remember what it's called. But something, the revisionist history, I think is what it was called. And he talked about this guy in the major leagues of basketball, and he would granny shot it every time because it's actually better. You make more shots. Like the percentage rate was like 80% made compared to somebody doing it like this, and it was like 20% you were making them. I mean, it was ungodly the amount that if people would just do it. And some big player like Magic Johnson or something started doing it, and then he just couldn't take it because he cared too much about what other people thought. And I think that's the other part of this. It's like you've got to keep doing muscle memory, but then you also have to be okay with failure, and you also have to be okay with doing what's right instead of necessarily what other people think. You know what I mean?
And it goes back to just being you. You know, I mean, your capabilities are what they are. You know, and so you can't you can't fake it forever. You know, you have to just keep doing stuff and getting better at it. And I think that that's part of, you know, us building up these expectations for younger designers, you know, in their first 5 years, is that they think they're going to be awesome at it. And they think that conditions are always going to be good, you know. But, you know, you get your heart broken doing this all the time. You know, I had a job to do something for MTV last year, and I had to fire them, you know, and that sucked, you know. And it was like the coolest thing, you know. And I was like, I have to fire you because you're a bad client, you know. And like, you continuously learn, you know. And it's not just about not doing $500 logos. Sometimes you get the most awesome dream jobs, and you just have to let them go, you know. And even the stuff that you're building towards, whenever you get there, you're just, when you get to a mountaintop, it just makes it so you can see other mountains, you know. You just get a better view, you know. And so you got to climb, you know. I think that everybody's at the bottom of a mountain and they just want to be at the top, and they don't realize how important the climbing that mountain is. You know, you learn so much stuff. You get stronger climbing the mountain, you know. You don't want to be just a weak ass up at the top of the mountain because a helicopter just dropped you up there, you know. Because whenever I get up to that mountain, I'm going to throw you off of it, and it's going to be easy.
When I hiked the Grand Canyon when I was in my 20s, there was this girl that hiked with us, and we ended up divvying up our pack, and she didn't have the right boots, and she just whatever. Anyway, so 2 years ago, I hiked it with my sister and my best friend. And we divvied up my pack because I was not in good shape. But I didn't complain, not one time. But it always was like that girl and I was just like, I just got to keep walking. I just got to keep walking. And I remember that girl back when I was in my 20s, she was like, just get me a donkey. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, like, enjoy like what you're seeing. And it is brutal, you know, because we did like 24 miles in 2 days. And, you know, you're really dropping down a lot. It was, I mean, granted, I was not in as good a shape as I needed to be, but there was a lot of things I learned. And it was, I was listening to Gary Vaynerchuk book, the Ask Gary V book. I don't know if you've read that one. Have you?
I have.
Okay, yeah. It's great. Anyway, he talks about complaining, and it just really hit me this week when I was listening to that. He's like, complaining has no value. Like, it's about, instead of just, I need to be on the top, it's like, be right where you are. And I think what you were telling Kent is, this is where you are. This is as good as this piece is going to be. Be okay with this and move on, and let's do the next piece. Right.
And the thing is that what you consider the top, that's just the top that you can see.
Right.
You know, that's just as high as you can see. So your aspirations are going to grow, you know, and your ambition is going to grow as well, you know. And so whenever you get up through the clouds and you're like, I'm at the top of the mountain, all you can see is the horizon. You can just see more mountains, you know. And so, you know, I worked my way up to be a creative director, and then I hated it, you know, and I realized that I want to be a regular old designer. And then I started, you know, senior designer is what I want to be. You know, Wesley, I could have picked any title. I could have called myself the what do they call it? The chief design officer.
Creative. Yeah.
I could have done anything, you know. Right. I got to type my own business card out, you know. And so, you know, I like being a senior designer. I think that fits me. You know, I look at that as a designer that can work well with other designers.
So one last thing that I love of your wisdom is, tell us about your philosophy about the last 8 hours, because I think it has to do with like seeing people only at the mountaintop, right?
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, you know, you see those peaks, you know, and your career and life, it goes like this. There's ups and downs, you know, and so people, you know, social media and everything, we just post the peaks, you know, we just show the cool stuff. And I think that if you actually could just ask somebody, it's like, what did you do the last 8 hours, you know, and have them honestly tell you their last 8 work hours, you know, because yours might be like, okay, I was teaching for 4, I was planning for 4, you know, and it might not be so glamorous.
Right. An email newsletter, right?
An email newsletter. You know, I got to spend all day making an email blast on MailChimp, you know, once a month. I have to do that because I work alone. I don't have a person to just pass it to. Used to, I would make be like, they look like this. I never have to do it again. But now I got to do everything. And I think being honest with that, that's what younger designers need. All us old people, we know that everybody has to do that crap. That you can't just live doing one logo a month for, doing 12 logos this year. I don't care if it's for Nike or for who, you couldn't even stay interested if that's all you did, And so to be able to ask somebody and be like, what'd you do the last 8 hours? And have them answer honestly, I think that you're going to get, a lot of people be like, oh, wait, that's what I did. Oh, but you're Sagmeister. You mean that you had to actually typeset something? Right. You mean you had to choose body copy?
Right.
Sagmeister, you don't just wave your hands and then float off and that happens. All of us have to do that shit. And so, I would love to have some way that people could just say what they did the last 8 hours and just be real about it, except for me, because I'm making all my 8 hours awesome.
I know you are.
My last 8 hours, I made Crunk Friday stuff so far today.
Well, so I want to give people a way to get in touch with you. And so they can follow you on Instagram because I know we're about out. Oops.
Yeah, follow me on Instagram.
And I'm going to put it over here, but just for people who are listening, it's Jason the 29th. So Jason the 29th. Were you born on the 29th?
No. Okay. I had this conversation yesterday. So when I was in high school, it was like in 1994, we got on the internet for the first time. And they were teaching us how to set up an email account on Hotmail. And so everybody is like typing in their name, and I was like, wait a minute, this is like a throwaway email. Like, I'm not going to have this forever. I was like, I don't want to waste it. I don't want to just go for the gold and just go with Jason Craig at hotmail.com. What about when I'm old? I might want that. And so 29 was my football number, and then like Friday the 13th. And so it just became Jason the 29th was the first email that I ever set up in 1994. And little did I know that I would have it forever. But yeah, the thought process was that I'm still saving Jason Craig at, whatever, altavista.com for something really important. Just holding on to it.
So that you also used to not be on really any social media. So Instagram was like your first one. You're still not really on Twitter, but you do have a Facebook. So and I shared that as well. And then, do you want me to share your email or no?
Yeah, share my email. Don't give out my phone number anymore because
I'm not giving any phone numbers.
I'll give my phone number. You can get my email. Yeah.
Okay, so it's Jason the 29th at gmail.com. So. Yeah. So people can just reach out to you and ask you questions.
Just tell me who you are, like your name.
And send like a fun picture from when you were a kid.
That'll help. Yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah. From no bath pictures.
No, fully clothed pictures. Okay. So I'm so thankful that we had some time today, and I'm always thankful for you coming and joining me and doing this. And I can't wait to see you in person and eat a meal with you, because you said you would eat a meal with me again. Anyway, so if you guys if you enjoyed today, next week we have Alec Lewis, and he's actually in Mobile. He's an animator. I don't know why I said that funny, but he's an animator, and he was a theater. That's what he did undergrad, was theater. And so we're going to talk about how some different backgrounds kind of make you a better whatever you are. So, and then we're going to talk a little bit about animation as well. So if you want to get in touch with me, you can always email me at diane@rechargingyou.com, or you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Design Recharge. And I'll put that over in the thing, and then I'll also be in the show notes. So Doc, I will make sure that I introduce you to Jason at Creative South, and I doubt that you've ever had, he said somewhere earlier, like, I'm just waiting for the good sketch to be there that I put in that sketchbook, or good drawings to be there. I can't imagine that you would have a bad drawing in your sketchbook, because I've seen. So, and again, just like shout out to Terrence. I did wear a shirt, but I'm too short to show everything. So anyway, I will see you guys next week. And Jason, I'll see you at Creative South. And we should all bring our books of bad drawings, or We should all have that nice leather sketchbook.
Bring that nice one, yeah.
Yeah,
nice one.
And then have some drawings before we go to Creative South.
There you go.
Thank you so much, and we'll see y'all next week.
Thanks, Diane.
Thank you.